So this is the example, and I kind of didn't recording, and you can tell I could make the mistake here. And one mistake that I made was actually here. When I tried to declare initially, and when I tried to declare an array of strings, I forgot to put the square bracket. So initially what I did here, so this is a mistake. One mistake that I made here is I did this. So I forgot the square bracket. And then so you can tell they say illegal initializer. Okay, so this is a string. Now, this is a string, but this is an array of strings. So there are differences. We have to have a square bracket here. And so that's wrong. Okay, I can comment them out. Now, the second thing that it's being struggled here, right? So I try to find out the longest string. And there are two ways I can do it. One is I can find out where the longest string index is. Or this is not only the way that we want the index. Okay, so we need to actually find out the longest string index here. Okay, so this is the way we want to do it. Now, to avoid the confusion which I had before, we instead of say the longest normally means the longest length. Okay, so if we instead of say the longest, and then because we want to return the index, so we'll rename them as the index equals 0. Right? We're assuming the longest one happened at the first one of the array. And then we loop over the array. And so the index is from 0 till the list.length. Now, look here. When I say the list.length here, this length here has no parentheses after them. The reason is because list is an array. So if we want to find out how many elements in the array, then we don't have the parentheses, okay? But if this is an index, if like a list index here, this whole thing, if this is a string, then we want to find out how many characters in one string, then we really need to say the string name dot length, and we have a parenthesis. Okay, so this is to answer your question about what's the differences. Now, let me explain again. The names here is array name. So what is the array? If we want to find out how many names in this list, which is 4, then we will say names.length without parentheses. If we want to find out the length, say for example, and this student, okay, so because this is a string, okay, and so this is actually, it's a names, square bracket, and 1, so this is a string. So if we want to find out how many characters in this specific person's name, then we have to have the parentheses because it's a string. So every time, if this is a string, we want to find out how many characters in a string, then we need to say length with parentheses. This is unfortunately one of the places that Java is confusing. All right, so if we want to find out the length, total element in an array, then there's no parentheses. Okay, so now let's continue on here is that we want to make sure, okay, so here we are working on, we want to make sure we actually return the index. Okay, so since this is the index, then we will compare the string at this index, which is the longest one. And if this, the length of the string is less than the current string's length, then that means we found a bigger one. And then we will update the index. All right, now the confusion that I got here is this. Okay. The confusion that I got here, sometimes I used the longest. Okay. And now the longest, when we say the longest, we probably means the length here. So if we say initially this is a 0, right? Another way we could do here, if we want to, we can do here is like this, okay? And we can say if, right? If longest is less than, and again, if the longest is less than the current length, okay? And then we will update the longest equal to the current length. And now we have to remember we will save the index equals the current index. So that way we are actually, we can return the index or we can return the longest, right? So the mistake that I make, I kind of confused or mixed the longest versus the index. Now, if we run this one here, so right now we actually return the index. So it should return the index of 2. So let's run this one. And now the longest index is 2. Okay, so that's correct. Now, if we want to change to say, all right, we want to return what's the longest length, and we can, instead of here, and we can return longest. And they're supposed to return 16 as they did before. Okay, so if I run this again, they will return 16, right? And so that's the differences, and it's good that we always learn from our mistakes. Even I make mistakes all the time, and so we're not going to confuse with what's the index and what's the longest length for this one here. And the other question we're going to ask is, if I give you a list of names and I want you to find out if a specific name is among the names. Okay, so now same thing here, we can create a search, we can create what we call the search, and give an array of strings and one specific string. So initially, we'll assume we didn't find it. So the search index will say -1. That means we assume we didn't find it, okay? And then again, we'll loop over the array, which is the list. And now we'll compare each of the string on the list if they are equal. We cannot use here, look here, we cannot use equal for testing. Okay, we cannot use equal. Only the primary data type can use the equal. For the object, because string is an object, okay, they have a lot of characters in it. So we cannot just say equal. We have to use the method called equals and passing the s as the parenthesis. And if those returns true, okay, and then we can update the index to I. And here I'm adding a new things here. I will say, as soon as we find it, and let's get out of the loop. We just want to find the first one. If we find it, we break it. And then we just say, return the index. So back into the main, how we're using this one is, if I have searched for, say, the Claire 10, and because the name is in the index 0, it's supposed to return me 0. And that means, they found it. So see here, if I run this one, it returns the index 0. Okay. Otherwise, if I say, oh, I just want to see if there's anyone named Claire, well, they have to match precisely. Okay. So if I run that one, and it will say -1. Well, this is wrong. So that means they don't find the name Claire. It has to be the whole name here.